What if the secret to power isn't being brilliant, but looking like you are? We live in a time that's obsessed with authenticity. We hear it everywhere, like a modern-day mantra. Be true to yourself. Honor your inner truth. Showing your real self is an act of courage. But there's something deeply uncomfortable about that message. Because, if we're being honest, how many times has being yourself actually protected you from judgment, failure, or rejection? How many times has being your full, unfiltered self opened doors for you, earned you influence, made you a leader? For many of us, the answer is not often. Maybe that's why Niccolò Machiavelli still feels so provocative. He doesn't tell us how things should be, he shows us how things really are. He doesn't comfort us with kind words, he throws the harsh truth right in our faces. The world doesn't reward pure goodness, but effectiveness dressed up as virtue. In his most famous work, The Prince, this Renaissance thinker shatters moral idealism and reveals that politics, and life in general, isn't a game of ethics, but a game of appearances. What matters isn't whether you're wise or good, but whether people think you are. You don't have to be the best, you just have to act like it. And that's where things get uncomfortably real. Because if you pause and look around, you'll notice something. The most capable people don't always win. Instead, it's often the ones who master the art of presence, of attitude, of performance. People who walk into a room and command energy without even saying a word. People who project so much confidence that even when they're full of doubt, no one notices. People who don't wait to be in charge to act like leaders. They act like leaders to become the ones in charge. Is that arrogance? Maybe. Manipulation? Possibly. But does it work? Absolutely. Machiavelli, in his cold but clear-eyed way, understood something essential. Power isn't built on truth, it's built on perception. What people believe about you matters more than who you actually are. A weak leader who seems strong is more feared than a strong one who looks unsure. A ruthless person with charisma and good stage presence can move crowds, while a decent, humble person who doubts themselves might struggle just to be heard. As brutal as it sounds, this logic doesn't just apply to kings and politicians. It shapes our careers, our relationships, even our self-worth. And here comes the strangest part. It's not just that we can fake it to influence others. When we do, we also influence ourselves. Acting like we're capable, worthy, confident, even when we're trembling inside, has a powerful effect. It's not just pretending. It's a way of building ourselves from the outside in. When you walk like someone powerful, speak like someone who knows what they want, and carry yourself like someone who deserves respect, something inside starts to shift. The body teaches the mind. The character teaches the actor. The performance becomes reality. Now, this idea might bother people who believe that only what's real has value. But maybe we need to ask, what is real anyway? Are we being authentic when we show our insecurities exactly as they are? Or are we more authentic when we push through them by acting confident? Is it more truthful to be openly vulnerable, or to wear a strong, effective mask that helps us move forward in a harsh world? And what if that mask, over time, stops being a lie and becomes a new version of the truth? This isn't about being cynical. Machiavelli doesn't tell us to lie just for the thrill of it, or to manipulate just for personal gain. He invites us to understand the game, to stop expecting honesty alone to take us far, to recognize that the world isn't fair, but that doesn't mean we can't use our wits to make it work for us. If you're waiting for your talent or goodness to speak for itself, you might be waiting forever. But if you can learn to act with conviction, even when you're shaking inside, you might finally start stepping into the role you were meant to play. The key isn't tricking people with empty theatrics. The key is projecting what you want to become, building on the outside what you long to feel on the inside. It's a subtle but powerful shift. It's not about being fake. It's about daring to behave like your best self even before you fully are that person. Because if you wait to feel ready before stepping into the spotlight, you might never get on stage. But if you step up as if you deserve to be there, you may just realize the role was yours all along. Machiavelli knew this. Humanity isn't led by raw truth. It's led by symbols, signals, and appearances. A prince who hesitates loses authority. A speaker who stumbles loses credibility. A leader who doesn't command respect from the start may never gain it later. In this world, seeming strong often matters more than being strong. Not because real strength doesn't matter, but because most people won't see it unless you project it first. We live surrounded by mirrors. People reflect back what you show them. If you act weak, they'll treat you as weak. But if you act like you're unstoppable, many will believe it, and eventually, you might become it. This mindset might sound harsh, even ruthless, but it's also freeing. Because you don't have to be perfect to start. You don't need to erase every insecurity to move with power. You can begin right now with what you've got, just by changing the way you show up. Faking confidence isn't lying. It's opening the door to a new possibility of who you can become. It's turning performance into practice, and practice into transformation. It's becoming little by little what you once only pretended to be. Maybe real power isn't about who you are, it's about how you choose to show up. Because if you can get people to believe you're the best, if you can inspire respect and admiration through your presence alone, then you've already won half the battle. The rest, your inner growth, your real improvement, your deep authenticity, can come later. But without that first impression, without that first bold step of pretending, you might never get the chance to show who you're truly capable of becoming. And in a world ruled by perception, that's the greatest risk of all. Acting like you're the best isn't just a trick to fool the world, it's a tool to shape yourself. Because at the end of the day, identity isn't something we're born with. It's something we build, and much of that construction happens from the outside in. We don't come into the world knowing who we are. We figure it out by watching how others respond to us. When we carry ourselves with confidence, people tend to treat us with respect. And that respect? It fuels the very confidence that, in the beginning, was just an act. That cycle keeps going, and what started out as performance slowly becomes reality. Machiavelli understood something most people overlook. Human nature is deeply visual. We respond to impressions, symbols, gestures, body language. We don't need to know someone's full story to decide whether to trust them. Their tone of voice, the way they carry themselves, the energy they project, that's enough. We do it all the time without even realizing it. So if that's how people operate, then there's real power in learning how to shape that perception. Not to fake who we are, but to amplify the best parts of us, even the ones that haven't fully bloomed yet. There are moments in life when we feel small. We hesitate. We freeze up out of fear. Fear of failing, fear of looking foolish, fear of not measuring up. But how many times were those fears just stories we told ourselves? How many doors have we left closed just because we didn't have the guts to stand tall and walk through them? That's where the practical wisdom of pretending to be great comes in. Not to brag, not to lie about what we've done, but to dress ourselves, inside and out, with the dignity of someone who knows they're capable even if they don't have all the answers yet. The world's not going to pause so you can build up confidence. It won't wait around while you work through your insecurities. Life moves fast. And the people who get it, they act even while they're still unsure. They don't wait to feel ready. They take the step first and get ready along the way. That's the quiet bravery of those who leap without a safety net. Not because they're sure they'll land on their feet, but because they know that only in motion will they discover what they're really made of. And even if the leap is awkward or shaky, it sends a message. There's strength, courage, direction here. Now, this doesn't mean you should live in a constant performance of arrogance. This isn't about becoming a fraud or hiding your emotions. It's subtler and deeper than that. It's about acting strong precisely when you feel the weakest, because that's when it matters most. Faking strength, not to dominate others, but to keep yourself from giving up on yourself. When one part of you dares to act like you believe in your own worth, even if every other part is drowning in doubt, you're planting a powerful seed. And that seed can grow. Most great leaders didn't start out with total self-belief. Many were overwhelmed by fear, insecurity, and rejection. But they knew how to hold their heads up. They knew how to act like they knew what they were doing. And it was that image, that illusion of certainty, that drew people in, that gave them momentum, that let them slowly build a real sense of strength from the inside. They faked it until it stopped being fake. Not out of vanity, but out of survival. Because they understood a brutal truth. The world doesn't hand out respect to people who show weakness without a plan. There's something deeply empowering about that. It gives us the reins. It reminds us we're not defined by our fears, our insecurities, or our past. We always have a choice in how we show up. Even when everything inside us is shaking, we can still choose to walk in with our head held high. And that decision, that moment of deliberate strength, can start to feel real. The fire starts with a spark, and sometimes that spark is just appearance. Of course, this idea isn't always comfortable, because it puts responsibility in our hands. We can't blame our shyness, our environment, or luck anymore. If it's possible to act powerful before you feel it, then how we carry ourselves is on us. And that can be scary. It's way easier to wait for someone else to validate us, or for perfect conditions, or for confidence to magically show up. But the truth is, confidence doesn't just happen. It's built. And sometimes the first brick is having the guts to fake it. That as if mindset has real power. Walk like you already deserve respect. Speak like your words matter. Look people in the eye like you're not afraid of being seen. That attitude doesn't just shift how others see you, it shifts how you see yourself. Because your body, your posture, your tone, all of that sends messages back to your mind. We grow from the outside in. And when we act strong, we build the internal conditions for real strength to take root. Machiavelli's message isn't a call to hollow manipulation, it's an invitation to use the art of presence as a tool for growth. Because nobody wakes up one day fully ready. Nobody's born invincible. Everything is built, step by step, move by move, moment by moment. And when you realize that, then acting like you're the best isn't a lie, it's an act of faith. Faith in your potential. It's believing that what you're not yet, you can still become, if you have the courage to act like you're already there. Yeah, the world's a stage, but not in some shallow, cynical way. It's a stage because how we show up, to others and to ourselves, shapes everything. And in that game, acting strong isn't faking the truth. It's creating a new one. One that matches who we could be if we stopped waiting for permission, if we stopped holding back, if we finally decided to believe in ourselves. Because deep down, we all carry a bigger version of who we are. One that's been sleeping, silenced by fear, shame, or past failures. But that version isn't dead. It's just waiting for a shot. And that shot can start with a gesture, a decision, a stance. With acting as if you're already there. As if you've already made it. As if the world already sees your worth. Because here's the paradox. Sometimes the world starts to believe in you, right after you start believing in yourself, even if it's just an act. And in that moment, when the echo of your performance starts to awaken something real inside you, you realize you've crossed a line. You're not pretending anymore. You're not acting. You're being. But you never would have gotten there if you hadn't had the guts to pretend first. Because pretending, in the deep, brave sense of the word, isn't lying. It's building. It's stepping into the shape of the person you want to become, and walking in it until your soul catches up. So, what does it really mean to act like we're the best? It's not empty arrogance or inflated ego. It's not about putting ourselves above others or competing for who shines the brightest. At its core, it means stop shrinking. It means recognizing that how we show up in the world directly impacts how the world responds to us, and that impact, in turn, shapes us. Faking greatness, as Machiavelli suggested, isn't about betraying who we are. It's about calling forth who we could become. It's an inner signal, one that, repeated often enough, ends up waking up the real version of ourselves. Maybe deep down, in some quiet corner of our inner life, we're all just waiting for the day we finally feel ready. Waiting for the doubts to disappear, for everything to line up perfectly, for the fear to vanish so we can walk confidently. But life doesn't hand out that kind of clarity. What it gives us, more often than not, is the need to act before we feel certain. And that's where real growth begins. Because if you only move when you feel strong, you'll never know what real strength actually is. It's in your moments of weakness that the most powerful gestures are born. It's when you're trembling that the deepest kind of dignity can take root. That's why acting like you're the best isn't vanity, it's soul survival. When the world tries to make you feel small, when failure stings, when the voices in your head tell you you're not enough, that's exactly when you've got to lift your head, steady your step, and face forward. Not because you're blind to your wounds, but because letting those wounds define you is how you start to disappear. And no one should erase themselves. No one should fall silent just because they haven't quite found the perfect tone for their truth. There's something deeply human about that struggle. Something that hits home, that tugs at the heart. We've all been there, staring in the mirror, wondering if we're enough, if we even deserve to take up space. And in those moments, you don't need more reasons to doubt. What you need is the courage to act like you already have what you're missing. That as if is a doorway, a crack in the wall, a seed planted in the dark that, with time and repetition, can grow into something stronger than you ever imagined. Machiavelli understood that perception is power. Not just the power to influence others, but the power to shift how we see and experience ourselves. If you carry yourself like someone who matters, if you move through the world like someone who knows their worth, your body and mind eventually get the message. Because we're not fixed objects, we're in progress. We're always under construction. And acting like we've already found our center is sometimes the only way to get there. To call it forth. To start living from a place that might still be in the making, but that needs to be lived in to be built. This isn't about hiding who we are. It's about refusing to keep underestimating ourselves. About stopping the habit of asking for permission. About no longer waiting for someone to come rescue us from our insecurity. That rescue starts with us. When we quit speaking the language of smallness and start moving like we actually belong. Even if it's hard. Even if it hurts. Even if it feels fake at first. Because let's face it, a lot of real things started out feeling like make-believe. A lot of free souls were born from one brave moment of pretending. And that's where you find the biggest paradox of all. Only those who dare to act like they're great ever truly become so. Because if you're waiting for 100% certainty before stepping into the spotlight, you'll stay stuck forever. Growth happens in motion. Change happens in action. When you carry yourself with dignity, even before you feel it fully, that's when things start to shift. That's how transformation begins. That's how we slowly become more ourselves. Life won't slow down to let you build confidence. It won't hit pause while you get your courage together. And if we don't step up and claim our space, the world won't just hand it to us. But if you stand tall, even if you're shaking on the inside, if you speak with purpose, even if you're still figuring it all out, something starts to shift. First in others, then in yourself. And the mask you thought you were wearing? It starts to reveal something truer than what you used to show. That's why pretending isn't about faking it to fool people. It's about laying a foundation. It's building your inner world from the outside in. It's sculpting yourself through motion, through posture, through energy. Because, whether we like it or not, we often don't know who we are until we try it on. Until we take the step. Until we live it out. And one day, without even realizing it, we discover that the version we used to pretend to be isn't pretend anymore. That the confidence we tried to project actually lives inside us now. That the greatness we practiced has become part of who we are. That's the moment when the conflict disappears, when your inner world and your outward presence are no longer at odds. Because it's no longer a performance. It's just presence. And that presence was born from one decision. The choice to carry yourself as if the strength was already there, trusting that sooner or later, it would be. Not like a lightning bolt, but like a fire slowly catching. Fed by every steady step, every brave word, every held gaze. Machiavelli wasn't the soulless cynic people make him out to be. He was a sharp observer of human nature. And he knew that sometimes the most honest thing you can do is to hold on to an image that doesn't yet reflect your inner truth, because you believe in what that inner truth can grow into. That's not hypocrisy. That's faith in advance. It's behaving like the person you want to become, because that's the only way to make it real. This isn't about fooling the world. It's about not giving up on yourself. It's about holding on to a dignified image, even when everything inside you feels broken. Because sometimes that image becomes the first brick in rebuilding who you are. It becomes the symbol that reminds you, even if today you're down, you can rise again. Not because the world says so, but because you decide it's time. In the end, greatness isn't some gift reserved for a lucky few. It's a choice, a posture, a way of showing up in the world. And if that's true, then there's no reason to keep waiting. You can start right now. Pretend, sure, but not to lie. Pretend to build. Pretend to wake something up. Pretend, if you have to, just to make it through the fog of doubt. Because if your pretending comes from an honest place, it becomes a promise. And when that promise is kept, it changes you. So, acting like you're the best isn't arrogance, it's hope. It's not a declaration of superiority, it's a vow of faith in your ability to grow. And if you can hold on to that faith, even when everything inside you wants to let go, then you're not pretending anymore. You're creating. And in a world where so many settle for less, that, more than anything, is power.